All good?
Yeah, I just need to pick the right screen. Here we are. Okay, you guys seeing the presentation?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining. This is the OpenFaaS Community Roundtable call. There's other kinds of calls that we are having, and I'm going to mention them briefly. On the invite, I said to people to wear your FaaS Friday t-shirt, bring your stickers or swag, so you get a chance to show that off later. As you see, I've forgotten mine, but I have this. So the Zoom meetings. So far, we started doing these about every 2 weeks and had one call for everything. It turned out that we probably needed either to double the time of the call to 2 hours or to have a few different kinds of calls. So now the call we're having where everyone's invited is the office hours, chance for question and answer, and just some updates from the project direction, things like that. Get a chance to introduce yourself. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to, but it would be great to hear from you. And then there's the members call, which started up recently. So within the GitHub organization, we now have about 15 members. Members are people who are the member of a GitHub organization, basically. It's quite straightforward. They're members because it means we can assign each other work, we can track it through GitHub, and they're generally people that have just shown a commitment or an interest in contributing that we've got to know over some time and that are becoming important for the project. The core contributors are people that have a bit of a wider vision across the project that help with direction and also with decisions on what to be doing next and share a bit more responsibility. Now, are you familiar with the core contributors? If you want to see the members, they're on the GitHub org. So today we're going to get a few updates from the project, and then we'll go around and get a chance to chat. So some of you have seen this slide, and I just brought it back today because really there's 3 parts to the update. I want to talk to you about how the community is growing and changing, just like the GitHub members, the industry backing that is growing, and also the users that we've got. And this all ties back or can be tied back to different key values of the project about being focused on developers first, being easy for operators, not a headache, and that community aspect that you're used to seeing. So this is a basic point of the project. OpenFaaS gives you serverless on your terms. It's focusing on being easy to use. We have that UI, we've got the command line interface. John McCabe helped us out recently with the up command. I don't know if you've seen that yet. I did a blog post, 5 things you can do with the FaaS CLI to work more productively. Again, that's going back to just making this easier to use. We're still digging into that. You can run any code. There's a new blog post showing how to run a stateless microservice. So maybe you may have seen Google launched a new project called Knative, and they don't just run functions, but they'll run microservices as well, as long as they don't have any state. OpenFaaS has always been able to do that. What we've done is just made the support even better and released that. So if you check out the latest blog, you'll see exactly how to use that, and it references a challenge that GitLab's CEO gave, which was, I'd love to be able to run a Ruby on Rails app in OpenFaaS, have it scale to 0 when it's idle, have everything work exactly the same without making any changes to it. And I think that's one of the things that we can do now. Obviously, this will run anywhere. Radoslav, who's on the call, speaking to the community here, he's been helping me up the support for 32-bit ARM. And so if you've got a Raspberry Pi cluster like the one I have behind me, all of the latest Docker images are being published now on a regular basis, and you can get all the advantages from the project using that. And then any scale has kind of got a new meaning now because we got scale to 0 support built into the project. And I think there's a pull request that Bart is working on right now so that as soon as you deploy through Helm, you can actually decide whether you want the scale to 0 on or not. So really, when you look at OpenFaaS and you compare that to some of the other projects that are out there, it's about you deciding the limits, you working out what you want, rather than working against the limitations that you're finding in the system. Now, this is generated by a function that Ken wrote. It's 12 o'clock in Japan, so he couldn't join us. But he's basically in the middle on the left, and he built this as a function, and I just ran it in a browser on OpenFaaS Cloud, generated this today. We're now at 131 contributors across the whole of the organization. I think is fantastic. And many of those aren't just people that have added a blog. You know, they're repeat offenders, if you like, repeat committers, and they're coming back and helping to build the project. So OpenFaaS is built by you guys for you to use, and I think that's one of the things that really separates our community at the moment. This is the blog post that I just mentioned. In the example, you can find out how to deploy a regular guest book written in Ruby with Sinatra, and it uses Postgres or MySQL on the back end. That gives you the ability to just deploy that as if it was a function. It gets fully managed in exactly the same way. I'd encourage you to go and have a look at it. Now, this is the list of end users that have that aren't just using it, but have come forward and said that they're using it. There's a thread on GitHub, and each of these companies has come forward and saying, we're solving a real problem with this. Wireline was added yesterday. There's another company that's doing credit card processing that we're adding today. And so this just keeps growing, and I think that should be something that reassures us that we're doing the right thing, that people are able to find value and solve problems with what we've got right now, despite this being something that's evolving and that still has some of the vision to lock down. So one of the things I asked the core contributors was, you know, what is OpenFaaS Cloud to you? And some of you guys, you may not really know what it's there for. And when it originally launched this, the idea was it would give you GitOps for your functions, such that you have your developer workspace on the left, you commit your code into GitHub, and then Magic Pipeline will come along and package up your function and give you a URL for it. So a bit similar to the Heroku model. But I think as we've had more of the full-time team working on OpenFaaS Cloud and more of the community building into it, I think it's morphed and become more of the multi-user way to run OpenFaaS. I'm going to go on to say a few of the things that we're doing to make that even better as a use case. So OpenFaaS Cloud is becoming a platform for you to run OpenFaaS for multiple users or for a team, and it's not just locked into GitHub. Martin Dekoff over in Sofia, he's been adding support for GitLab and finding all of the differences between the GitHub and GitLab payloads and authorization models, so that you could, for instance, Patricio at Vision Banco in Paraguay could take OpenFaaS Cloud, deploy it within their private data center, and have their statement generator function built and deployed through this. That makes sense. So it's morphing, it's changing. Have a look at the roadmap in the Git repo. One of the other things that you'll see is support for private repos in GitHub that's been merged recently too. So in terms of the roadmap, we're now up at OpenFaaS 0.92, which is where we added additional support for microservices. Stefan has been doing a lot of work around Istio, and he's going to show us just a very quick 5-minute overview of this. Istio is a service mesh tool. It can enhance security. I think we're looking at it as an optional component, but there's certainly things that it can do that would be really useful within a function's deployment, including tracing and what's called mutual TLS, which is upping the security between your functions. Within OpenFaaS Cloud, the roadmap is now pointing towards making the multi-user support better by adding an OAuth 2 login. So if you're using GitLab, you should log in to see your functions. If you're using GitHub, you should log in again. The dashboard's being rewritten in React by Ken. Once that's complete, I think it will be easier for people to contribute to. And then the work around GitLab is a moving piece at the moment, but it would be great to have to find some people to try that out and install that on their instances. Okay. And then in terms of events, the next event coming up for us is Open Source Summit. And I know John, Stefan, potentially Bart and Ivana, myself, we're all looking to be there. And there's a talk that's been accepted about OpenFaaS Cloud on the Monday. So it would be great to see any of you there that can make it. All right. What we'll do now is we'll get a quick demo from Stefan. I'll stop sharing, and then we'll go around. And if you guys have had any questions about the update, we'll get a chance to talk. All right. So Stefan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so this week I've been trying to run OpenFaaS inside Istio. Of course, nothing works by default, but with small changes, I managed to run it. So what I'll be showing you is OpenFaaS running on Istio, running on GKE, but it's not. It should work on any other cloud that has upstream Kubernetes support. I will use WithCloud to give you an overview of how the system is composed. So when you install Istio, first of all, I'm installing Istio with all the tracing and security features turned on. So I'm having Istio with Jaeger, with Prometheus, with MTLS set up. And this is how the Istio namespace looks like. We have here two components. One is Istio ingress gateway, and one is the egress gateway. What this ingress gateway does is it replaces, let's say, Nginx ingress gateway or your cloud vendor gateway. When you install it, the Istio ingress gateway gets a public IP through a Kubernetes load balancer. So what I did, I got that IP and I made a DNS record for it. And because Istio comes with Sept manager as well, I've provisioned a Let's Encrypt certificate for my Istio ingress gateway. So I have, from the internet, when you reach the ingress gateway, here is Let's Encrypt certificate. From here, from the Istio gateway, everything inside the cluster is also using TLS. And it's called neutral TLS. Istio takes care of that. Every time you create a deployment that has a service inside your cluster, a sidecar will get attached inside each pod, and the service-to-service communication will be secure with TLS. What that means for OpenFaaS, let's say you are running OpenFaaS Cloud and you are hosting untrusted workloads. Let's say you don't trust the functions that your users will be running there, or maybe you are afraid that some function has some kind of, I don't know, vulnerability inside. With MTLS, you make sure that from one service, you cannot just, I don't know, see all the traffic inside your cluster, because service-to-service communication is encrypted. So this is a big feature of Istio, MTLS. And another big feature is the fact that since Istio runs all these sidecars everywhere, it can create an open tracing profile of your services without having you to instrument, let's say, your OpenFaaS function or the gateway or whatever microservices you are running there. You get these features by default. So I've installed Istio with all these components, and afterwards I've installed OpenFaaS in the two namespaces, OpenFaaS and OpenFaaS FN. So here is the OpenFaaS gateway. As you can see from the internet, you hit the Istio ingress, and the Istio ingress will go to the gateway, and the gateway, of course, talks to the Prometheus instance inside OpenFaaS and to other functions that you have. So here is my OpenFaaS portal. Here is HTTPS. I've deployed all these functions through the OpenFaaS store. And now I will make a call to node-info. So okay, click the button a couple of times. It makes calls to the function. And now let's say I want to track all these things from the internet, Istio gateway, and our function, and see how that call is being made. This is how the Jaeger UI looks like. It's an open tracing implementation. Jaeger is part of it's a CNCF project. It's open source. So for example, here I'm seeing I can filter based on all my services inside OpenFaaS. And inside my cluster, I'm selecting node info, and I want to see how node info gets called. And here is one of the calls that I made. And you can see here nicely that my request came from the ingress gateway. It hit the HTTPS endpoint, the public endpoint. From there, this is the Istio gateway, and from there, the Istio gateway will forward the call to the OpenFaaS gateway. The OpenFaaS gateway receives the request and creates a new, uses an HTTP client inside to call node info. So here, the request got in. It's a span kind server, and here, also inside the gateway is a span kind client, because this is the client call, and goes to HTTPS node info OpenFaaS FN. So here is TLS and everything down. The gateway makes another TLS call to node info. If I'm looking inside the function, here the watchdog receives the request from the gateway, calls the Node.js app function inside, and returns the request way up to the outside. Also here, you can see that every time a call is being made, the sidecar, that's Envoy, calls the Istio policy, the Istio mixer, that decides if a call is authorized or not. What I'm having here, besides the fact that I've installed Istio, I've also set up some policies. For example, if, let's say, I would exec into the node info pod, I could not call any kind of open source, OpenFaaS core services. Like, let's say, you cannot call the gateway to delete a function, you cannot call Prometheus to alter the data, and so on. The functions can be called only by the gateway, and they can do external calls, but not inside calls. And this is how you can protect yourself from, I don't know, rogue functions. So this is the tracing feature. It's very useful for debugging and stuff like that. You can see where the latency is. So for this request took like 150 milliseconds, and most of that time it's spent inside the function call in a Node.js app. And you can clearly see here that the duration is 1.5 millisecond, start time 30 milliseconds. So you can see each microservice, how the call goes in each microservice, can see how much it took each step. Another thing that Istio does is with his with the Prometheus monitoring. Let's say I want to look at the OpenFaaS gateway, and I can see the success rate, the request duration, things that we already have right now in our own Prometheus monitoring. But what Istio does is inbound monitoring and outbound monitoring. So for example, I can see what goes into my gateway and from whom. For example, here I'm seeing that there is this traffic is received from the Istio ingress gateway. It's over MTLS, and all the response code was 200. And in the outbound, I can see what the function or what the gateway is calling, right? For example, it's calling Prometheus because it has to get all the data, is connected to NATS, and also the Kubernetes API because I'm running the OpenFaaS CRD controller, the operator. So because both sits in the same pod, I can see all the outside traffic and inside traffic, and I create alerts based on that and so much more. I've started documenting all of this, all these steps that needs to be done for running OpenFaaS in Istio. I've also made some pull requests. There is a pull request for the health chart. It needs a lot of changes, like, for example, the health checks. You cannot let kubelet do the health checks anymore. You need to do an exec inside the pod to run the health checks. You need some standardization on how you expose Kubernetes cluster IP services. All the service IP must have HTTP or HTTPS as the name of the port. So for example, this is how I changed the gateway service. I added name HTTP, so Istio will look at this and will say, okay, if this service exposes an HTTP endpoint, I can do a tracing on it, I can do L7 routing and stuff like that.
Yeah, Stefan, I think we probably need to start wrapping it up now, and the level of detail has probably gone a bit too deep for this call. But what are the things you're most excited about with adding the support to have Istio in OpenFaaS as an option?
So one thing I really like the fact that you can do this kind of tracing. When I write a function and stuff like that, and I do a load test, I have no idea where is the actual delay. Is it in my function code? Is something inside the gateway and stuff like that? So when I'm modifying, let's say, the gateway, I want to do some testing on it, and having tracing over that really helps. Another thing that I really like is the MTLS part that assures me that nobody can, I can run other people functions in there, which is pretty cool. Yeah. The open tracing and MTLS are probably the biggest features I'm interested in, but also the Prometheus monitoring looks really nice.
Is this the latest and greatest Istio?
Yeah, okay. I'm running
cool
1.02 release.
Has anyone got any questions for Stefan before we go around and just have some question and answer time? Okay.
Look, if you have a chain of functions, how will the tracing look? Is it possible?
How do you chain functions right now? Function calls the gateway, right? From the external endpoint of the gateway, right? So when you call the gateway function, if you send the request ID header, tracing should work. Just a matter of forwarding the HTTP header to that call. I could do a demo of that. It's pretty easy.
We should try that.
Read the header from inside the function and attach that header to a HTTP call, and you can have tracing with chaining functions, of course.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I think once we get to 0.93, we'll have everything released, and maybe this even in the Helm chart, so that you can just install it with a single additional flag once you have Istio in place. You can try it out, let us know. We're not quite there yet, but I'm sure Stefan would appreciate anyone who wants to help him out with testing this. So there's a few people that don't have their name in the doc yet. So if you want to open up the doc in the chat window, you can put your name there. There's about 20 people now. And then I'll go around the people listed in that document. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. And we'll skip you. So I've got at the top of the list Mark Peake from VMware. Hey, Mark, it's nice to see you again. Mark's on, maybe you're on mute or busy. Let's go to Martin from my team out in Sofia. Martin.
Hello there.
Hey.
Do you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear.
So this week I enabled the AWS S3 bucket configuration. Other thing that I've been doing is checking out the OpenFaaS router for maybe personalizing your access to your dashboard on your instance by lower GitHub usernames, which are case sensitive, for now handled, and the OpenFaaS router can handle them now. I'm currently trying to maybe break the router into smaller logical units so it can be tested in a better way, and maybe I'm going to try update the GitLab thing, and I will try to integrate the private repositories maybe in the near future. And
yeah, I think we have the private repository support in OpenFaaS Cloud already.
yeah, but for GitHub.
For GitHub, yeah, but for GitLab,
For GitHub, no.
There's a slightly different model. So yeah, thanks for working on all those tasks, really making a difference. And I also noticed, Martin, you've been putting some more unit tests into the various areas. Again, really helps with automated regression. Kenny, are you there? I hear you did a really good talk at VMworld about OpenFaaS.
I am here. Good might be an understatement, right? Or overstatement. I tried taking a lot of material you gave me and tried running with it. So I appreciate that. For anybody that is interested, I put it up on YouTube a few days ago. I believe the link is out there somewhere. I know I put it in the OpenFaaS Slack as well, but I plan on getting a quick little blog post written up, just sharing the slides as well as the YouTube video as well. So if anybody is interested in watching it, you can go ahead and just find it there.
Yeah, let's get a missing your cloud suit. You had a pretty amazing suit.
I don't miss it one bit.
Someone needs to put a picture of that on there. Let's get your. Can you put your talk in the doc, and then if anyone wants to watch it, they can just click.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do that real quick.
Thanks so much for doing that. And then we got Bart, who joined us full time to work on OpenFaaS with me and the other guys. So, is it your second or third week? I can't remember.
Third, I think.
Third week.
Third week, yeah. So right now I was mostly working with network policy stuff, a little bit with Helm charts, and I don't remember what more. There was something about this Kafka connector to implement the basic out there, and a few smaller things. Right now I found an issue with network policy for OpenFaaS Cloud, which can be tricky for the older version than 1.11 of Kubernetes. And so we need to decide what to do with that. And when I will finish the small changes for pull request, I can pick something bigger, I think. So what's important for us.
Okay, great. So what Bart's saying there is we've got a connector that you can use to access or connect Kafka to your functions using annotations. And that now has support for a gateway that's got authentication.
Yes.
Actually saw there was a couple of small POC projects or teams within VMware that had been using it. So if you are using that, recently switched it from using labels to annotations because it allows you to put a different topic, a longer topic name in. So thanks, Bart. So we've got Alan Jal from Full Stack. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hey.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your interest in OpenFaaS?
Yeah, so I found OpenFaaS through an interesting client of mine. I used to do some work with the code team.
I think we're losing the volume a bit. I can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Hey, so I just recently joined the community. I really like what OpenFaaS is doing. I'm not on the development side, but I'm here to help contribute from a branding or design perspective. I felt like if you guys needed that help, but in general, I want to learn about it more. I think this call has been really helpful, especially the demo that I just yeah, so that's basically.
Well, great. I don't think we can hear you particularly well, but I think basically, keep me honest, what Alan just said is that he's worked with the code team, I guess with Jonas and Kenny in the past, and he's looking to help out with contributing some branding or some design. So that would be more than welcome. That's definitely an area where we need some help. Priyanka, how was your trip to, where did you go to? South Africa? See you on safari? Are you still there? Maybe we'll come back to you. We got Mark Pensack.
Yeah, I think Priyanka dropped off because we have a company call now, but I'm
sure.
She actually went to South Africa, we all did, and then she actually went to Tunisia afterwards, so she's been gone for a while. Anyway, yeah, we're really excited, obviously, about the GitLab integration stuff you're doing, but also the challenge you accepted from Sid to scale to 0. And one of the things I don't want to put you on the spot right now necessarily, but I'm really curious to see sort of the comparison between the Knative approach and your approach, and is it exact replacement? Is there difference? If take a hypothetical, I'm not doing serverless at all, but I am just doing microservices, but I want to scale to 0, which tool do I pick? What advantages would be one side versus the other? Again, you don't have to answer that now, but that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think you're not the only person with that question, but certainly, as you saw from the growing list of users, there are people that want something that's ready for production, or that other people are using in production already, rather than something that is more of a kernel of an idea. And that's really what we're trying to do, is just make something simple that works for people. And that's the primary difference right now. Looking at an alpha project that's kicking off, that's got a lot of potential, a lot of ideas, or something that people are making use of already. And there's never a black and white answer to this. There's so many different projects out there that are trying to do similar stuff. And, it's just good to see that Google are also interested in that, and that they have a very similar approach in a lot of ways. Scaling to 0, using Docker containers, using Prometheus, Kubernetes. I think really the answer will be very individual for people. But definitely, something we should explore more.
Well, more specifically, sometime in the next few months, we plan on making our auto DevOps scale to 0 by default for things. And so for that, specific set of use cases, I want to understand if we can use your technology to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is a blog post that you might find interesting that explains how this has all been put together in OpenFaaS. And I'm sure there are ways that it could be tweaked and changed as we get more feedback. There's a very iterative approach to OpenFaaS. I understand Sid likes a similar sort of way of approaching things, of getting something working, getting feedback, iterating on it. So have a look at it and see what you think. It's using the metrics that we're already collecting, and then it's driving stuff through that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take a look.
All right. Okay. So Radoslav. Hi.
Hi everyone. So I'm, as Alex said, I'm trying to help with the ARM support. Currently, I'm updating mostly the ARM32 images, so they're following the progress of the main supported architecture. I'm also in development of adding support for ARM64. So yeah, I had my first PRs merged already, and yeah, I'm looking forward for the next ones.
Thank you very much for those. I see Ed's just put his thumb up. Ed, we've got Ed from Packet. He's very much in your neighborhood with that stuff. Anything to say, Ed?
Yeah, so not especially specific to OpenFaaS, but more to the ARM64 ecosystem. There's a project just starting up underway to do a wholesale audit of functions in the, actually more like packages, but we'll call them functions for the moment, in the Python, Node, and Java worlds to look at compatibility for ARM64 and try to find some resolution to some systematic problems for some dependencies that are interfering with smooth integration of functions. So Radislav, if you have any ARM64 stuff going on, we should sync on that. I've got a cluster of machines that it may be useful for test or just general engagement.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Actually, at the moment I'm doing all of this development work in virtual machines on my x86 laptop. So you can imagine the performance there. It's
Yeah, I can imagine it all too well. And after this call, let's sync up on some better resources for you.
Yeah, that would be great if you could help Radislav out with that. Okay, thank you very much. So we've got Mahesh from Capital One. It's good to see you around again. How are things going? Can you hear us, Mahesh? Are you on mute? Okay, so we'll go forward to Jacobi. Am I saying that right?
Hi, Alex. I've just unmuted.
Okay, great.
Yep, Jacobi. We're integrating OpenFaaS, experimenting might be a better word, with OpenFaaS in our logic router, which you can find at opensparkle.org. Yeah, that's it. And it's been a great experience so far.
What does OpenSparkle do? I know there was a post that you put into the community recently, but I wonder if you could explain it in an elevator pitch.
Yeah, I made some changes. Thanks for your comments, Alex. It's about organizing, managing, and scaling complex event flows in hybrid environments. So you can think of it as an orchestrator. If you consider Istio, which I've not heard of before, but I was very interested to learn about that. That's the sort of thing that you might plonk Sparkle on top of, and it would be doing the application level flow using a configuration-only approach.
Okay. If you've got access to the document, why don't you paste a link where I've just put the notes about OpenSparkle to your article, and maybe we can get some people to look at it again.
Sure, that's very kind. Thank you.
The example that I saw was a very involved one. It looked probably like quite a complex production system using booking lines and all sorts of things like that. So definitely have a look at it. It's a bit more involved than the usual kind of use cases that we're used to managing in the projects.
Yeah, we're seeking there to show how OpenFaaS might work in, for example, a saga or complicated workflow for booking hotels and cars and what have you, which is often used as a kind of academic use case.
Yeah.
So that's why. But the website we're starting to build out, it's got some very much simpler examples too, and there'll be more coming.
Well, that's great. I mean, it would be good to maybe get a demo from you at an upcoming meeting. So
I'd be very happy to do that. Yeah.
Judith, are you still there from Kong?
Hi, I am still here.
Great.
I'm on a phone, so excuse the no video, but we're starting to think about starting our own community call for Kong, and this call was floated as a really good example, which it turns out to be. So thanks so much for running it, and it's cool.
Hey, you're welcome. It's great to have you here. So you have your summit coming up soon, don't you? Kong Summit, where is that?
We do. It's in San Francisco. It's the 18th and the 19th. And if anybody wants to contact me for a discount code or is interested in coming, I'll drop my email address in the doc and a link to the summit.
Yeah, that's great. I just put a line in there for the date. If you put the URL as well.
Yes, definitely.
Great, thank you. Rebecca, it's good to see you back again from Insperity. I know we had a bit of backwards and forwards trying to get something to work for you with Nexus, repos. How are things going at the moment? Are you still there, Rebecca? Some typing. Are you able to hear us? Okay. Can you speak on your microphone at all? Okay. We're getting chat messages from Rachel. Let me just read them out for you. So you're doing great now that you've got OpenFaaS up and running with your colleague Lyndon. Okay. That's great to hear. It's good to see you back again. You know, if you need anything, let us know. We'd be really happy to help. So, Vladislav, I believe from AnyImage, did we speak? What's your GitHub handle? Maybe that will remind me. Are you still there? Is it ex-friend? We've got some people that are on mute. So we'll skip Vladislav. Edward.
Hi everyone.
Hey.
So a bunch of my friends, we're all quite obsessed with infrastructure as code, and our sort of preferred weapon of choice at the moment is Terraform. And we've created a lot of Terraform providers to integrate with the tools that we love. We've actually created one for Kong, funnily enough, which is on the HashiCorp community providers list. And we want to get OpenFaaS into our normal deployment pipeline, which means that it needs to come under the Terraform, the management of Terraform. So this week I've been creating a Terraform provider for OpenFaaS, which will probably be incredibly simple because there's only one resource to manage, which is the function. So I was chatting to Alex a little bit about that yesterday. So hopefully I'll have something working and ready to share with the community, I'd say by early next week. It's going well. Great, thanks, Ed. I think a few people have come and gone throughout the call, so I don't want to miss Andrew. Cornies, do you want to say hello? I think you've been working with the Nomad provider with Nick. Can you tell us what's happening with that?
Yeah. So I just a little bit of background. I'm DevOps in a Toronto-based company. We do domain registrations and we have an internet fiber business and whatnot. We're looking at getting into the serverless infrastructure just to simplify a few things. And what caught my attention was the Kafka connector. So because we have we're running HashiCorp stack in production. We were using Nomad for the orchestrator. So I took a look at the HashiCorp Nomad provider and then tried to get it working with the Kafka connector. And then that's when I realized there was some discrepancies with the features that were supported on Nomad and the upstream. So yeah, I'm trying to catch that up with Nick, because Nick is pretty busy working for HashiCorp and doing presentations for big companies. So I'm trying to just pick that up, get it feature parity with everything else. It's going well. But basically I'm working with Nick to get those resolved the way he wants it. And looking forward to what this community can bring. And being a part of it. Thanks.
Well, thank you for picking up that provider. It's great to see being kept up to date again. And maybe once you have it to a point where it's stable, we could do a blog post about it on the OpenFaaS blog. Get people. Yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. Thanks so much for your help. Okay, so Lucas, I got Lucas Rosler from the core contributors. Are you still there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. in terms of stuff I've been thinking about for OpenFaaS recently is been, in general, thinking about streaming and how things like Lambda and functions as a service can integrate into the streaming. And specifically looking at things like a recent project I saw called Benthos. I've also been trying to go through and improve some documentation in certain areas. I have one related to SSL, and I think there's another small documentation improvement that I've been working on. And if anyone wants any more documentation, very few people volunteer for documentation.
Please.
I'm more than willing to take a stab at it. So if there's something you want to see, please let me know, and I'll try and get something together.
Absolutely, that would be great. Okay, so Richard Gee is on holiday this week, but he's still on Slack for some reason. And then Burton had a work call. Is there anyone else who wants to talk that we've missed or that joined afterwards? Okay. Any questions about what was shared today in the last 5 minutes that we've got together? Okay, great. Well, if you look at the doc, if you've not put your name in it yet, there's a link in OpenFaaS Slack. If you're not in OpenFaaS Slack yet, email and I'll send you an invitation. You've got all of the notes there and everyone that attended and spoke. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to finish the recording and upload this to YouTube. And then if you want to watch it again, you can. All right.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.